Our next session, we're going to be talking about certain things that we need to run a community and to run such a development project and product like NSO. Correct? Not everything is about the runtime. We need documentation. We need labs. We need to keep you updated on the latest. And we have here Conny, who's going to walk us through it. So, Conny, you're next.
Thanks, Roger. Well, great to be here. This will be a 50-minute presentation, just guiding you through the new stuff to be able to allow you to find your way and improve and work with this awesome product and the functionality in it. So my name is Conny, Ohult Andersen. I work with developer experience in what's also known as Team Saffron. We've been doing this I had a dedicated team for the documentation example set now for 3 years. You might wonder if we should have achieved more, but it's a lot. It's a lot of functionality in this product here, and we've been able to do some things here with a dedicated team on it. We're now 4 engineers in the team. 3 of us are dedicated to NSO, and 1 is dedicated to the workflow manager, which you'll hear more about, or heard about, or are using. So with regards to NSO, we work with NSO documentation, example set, changelog explorers, and we collaborate with Cisco DevNet on interactive learning labs for NSO, cloud IDEs where you can easily use NSO without installing NSO, and sandboxes for more complicated examples. And there's works in progress for, if not available already, for segment routing, new one based on sandboxes. So this presentation, I'll give you an overview of the new additions and the changes we made to the documentation platform, example set, and so forth. All right, so we started out with, I joined like 11 years ago or something. We started out with the best intentions. I was one of those engineers. We were a bunch of us. We just developed functionality, and okay, last second, add something to documentation when we added features or changed something. And yeah, you got to start somewhere. So anything worth doing is worth doing badly, sure. That's true, and then you iterate your way to greatness. But that's got to happen, and that's why we came in here with a dedicated team for this. So unfortunately, if you continue like that, the only thing worse than no documentation is bad documentation. Yeah, there was a lot of not so good documentation there for a while, to various degrees. Much of it was actually really good, but it's hard when you mix it up and with highs and lows like that. So we're trying to gradually here with this team make us go a little bit higher on the scale and not be so bad. And if it isn't documented, it doesn't exist. Of course, if you do things last second before you release something, you miss things, and there have been a lot of stuff that has been missing. For example, API documentation for Python and examples for things, and yeah, don't have to go through those things. That's in the past, almost. So yeah, what's as bad as that? Bad documentation, missing documentation. Yeah, it's been hard to find stuff in the documentation too. It hasn't been totally set up as it was with the previous platform that we had. And it's been hard finding a way in the example set. It's been hard to search the documentation. So we want to change that. Last year we started migrating then to a Gitbook-based docs platform, documentation platform. One of our team members have experience with that before, and it seemed like a great platform, and it is. And so we've been gradually moving over to that, and we're still moving over to that with some of the API documentation, like the Java doc and Python documentation, is left to move over. So we noticed that we needed something where we could, again, present things in an intuitive way, improve the search ability, as a bonus, an AI tool to be able to ask questions based on the documentation as input, and make it easier for us also to create and maintain this documentation, and our engineers and developers that are actually now maintain. I'm not doing features. I'm fully occupied with this now. So, but the features that come in, that they can contribute with documentation there too. And tie it in better to an improved example set, something we wanted to do, and make it easier for users maybe yourselves, to provide feedback. We haven't gotten much feedback yet, so here I want to focus a little bit and show you how you can provide feedback in the best way for documentation examples. All right. So the goal here is with the documentation is, as it always is with all documentation projects, I imagine. This is not the full list, but here are some of the things like integrate. We want to, the purpose is to be able to integrate with NSO, so the documentation has to guide you through that. You need to find the functionality that you have for your disposal in NSO. There's a lot of functionality, so that is of course key. Then using it, the functionality that you actually need, using it in your intended way, follow the best practices of that. That's of course super important, especially with a product like this. Be able to take action on the important changes that happen, migration to them, be able to go back, search what happened between the release I am now until 6.5 today, if you're on 6.3.1 like the previous presenters. And then again, provide feedback. It's easy with this product. Otherwise, if you don't have these best practices and good documentation, it's easy to get into trouble and be creative and do things the way it's not intended. So we want to be able to give you a smooth integration with NSO, even though it has a lot of functionality, and some of it you may use and some of it you may not use for your particular use case. All right, so the starting point for most people who come in and want to look at NSO is going through the main page or going through the download site for NSO. You would end up in the NSO Dev Center. So this has been here the whole time. We just updated a little bit with some things. And what you have here is quite useful to not only look at the documentation. Right. Not only look at the documentation and the documentation home and product guides and example collection and links to that. You have the learning labs, the DevNet based ones, which is great for if you have new team members or you new yourself. Just go through those. You don't have to install NSO or anything. You just run it. You have Explorer tools like going back, what changed in the change in what changed in NSO, what changed in the particular NEDs that I'm using, what are capabilities of NEDs that are out there and in production, and also links to things like the Crosswork Automation Hub, which you've probably seen, and videos, GitHub, where we share things outside of the example set that doesn't really fit into the example set, that has either external components or containers or these kind of use cases. And then, of course, if you want to see these sessions, you go here, and then you have support and downloads with trial downloads and so forth. These cards, we try to keep them up to date. Just go into NSO, what's new, see what's happening here with the 6.5 release. You can go back to the 6.4 release, see the release highlights, for example. At the bottom here, even if this is 6.4 here, so if something comes in like it did in 6.4.1, 6.4.2, like the rotating crypto keys, we add them at the bottom here to the what's new list of the 6.4 here branch that we have. And so then this what's new is nice. So you can just click and just go into the added documentation for the new feature. Right. Example set. Here's this is like if you're new to NSO, again, you get the developer, operator, net DevOps engineer kind of overview of the material that you have for your disposal. And if you want a quick introduction to NSO, you can point someone who's new to NSO to this introduction and simple Python. Learning labs, these things you can just launch, and you have a terminal here with NSO running, and just click and start things. Okay, it hasn't started yet. Oh, yeah, I was running this before this, so I didn't delete the netsim directory. Sorry about that. Okay. So the documentation, what it looks like today. let's switch to this one. Go here. What it looks like today with the Gitbook platform, you've probably seen it already. It's been here now gradually. We've been moving over to it for a few months before New Year's. You should note the new URL, the NSO docs cisco.com. We finally got that URL approved. Big organization for approving these things, but it's there now. So if you remember one thing from this presentation, it should be this URL. So, all right. So again here, links to what's new. You can go into, for example, documentation sets. One of the latest features, run NSO as a non-root user. This is based, there's also an example for this, multiple ones in the GitHub repository. One of the examples are based on something from the example set, which is this example right here. Okay, we can skip that for now. Anyways, what you have up here then is tabs, the Get Started tab, which I showed, with the NSO basics and pointers to learning NSO, quick start guides, so forth, and to the very much used tools like the changelog explorers. You have the user guides based on the branch that's using the NSO major version, the 6.1 up to 6.5. With the administration guide, operation guide, development guide that you're probably used to if you've been using NSO, and the man pages at the bottom here. Then the developers tab is a tab with the APIs like netconf interface, restconf API. And there's pointers to, of course, the standard, because the main documentation for the restconf, netconf protocols is the RFCs, and the Yang model language. And then, of course, we have additions to those and the integration or how it's actually used by NSO or presented by NSO with just pointers into the documentation itself for the RESTconf API, for example. Okay, resources. This is the platform tools, so possibility exporter, phase provisioning, resource manager, and some best practices guides and some other external resources, like I mentioned, the GitHub repository, changelog explorers. Again, they're all over the place. Something new, if you already are up to date and just recently added a couple of months ago or a month ago or something, is readmes for all NEDs. So all the NEDs that are in production status right now, you can just easily get the readmes for them, like the NED settings and the readme for this ASA, for example, device. And it's kind of nice compared to the old platform we use. We have a menu with a number of sub-menus, and then we have another sub-menu here on the right-hand side, which really helps to show and easier navigate the content than you could with the previous platform that we had. All right, a new addition as well is release info. So you got the release schedule now, easily accessible. Here we're showing, we released 6.5 and some things after that. We also released 6.4.5 here recently. This is coming up here, I think tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow. And some releases coming in. So this is updated continuously, so you can go in here and check the release schedule. And also if you don't remember how long the particular release is supported, you can go in here and check that in the software support statement. This is a copy of the one that exists actually on the kind of Cisco support site as well. But you can see it here now as well. All right. The example set. The example set comes with NSO, just as it's done before, and documentation also in PDF format. But they're all online now. So the example set is also online, and we link from the documentation into the example. So with example collection, we have restructured it a bit so that, if we can go into that, so that it actually resides and is uploaded as soon as the release comes out. The night of after that, there's a script that basically, just as with the readmes for NEDs and so forth, and changelog explorers just uploads it into the NSO developer GitHub site. So you have it here. Yes, so this example set nowadays has been totally restructured, and if you want to get an overview of the different folders in here in some sort of more intuitive way, okay, what's the basics, getting started, device manager, service management, non-service, performance. There's a little bit of guidance to that, so you can, for example, go into getting started. And here you have the getting started examples. These examples are then described by this markdown readme here. And then you can go into the example itself. It also is described step by step. Then a new thing, for most examples, we either have a showcase or a demo script. There's at least a shell script with 99% of all examples, I would say. Now, that it wasn't before. Before you just had to copy paste out of the README and run the example based on that. Here you can still do that. I mean, you can still copy paste out of the README and do all these steps. And of course, it's easier with Markdown that you just can copy it out. But you can also run the showcase script or manipulate the showcase scripts, the demo scripts to fit your needs. Here's one for the CLI, and this particular example has one for RESTconf using Python requests, and then MAPI using the Python MAPI API. So this looks the same basically for all examples, except most examples only have the CLI scripting, but many of them have the RESTconf part, and a few of them have a MAPI implementation as well. And we're trying to add step by step more and more RESTconf, because that's what a lot of people use, and MAPI also because it's just a useful API to get reference examples for. But where it makes sense, add that too. Okay, so let's see here. Yes. So it's much easier to search. Sorry. So it's of course much easier to search the example set based on GitHub search engine, and it's also possible for you to provide feedback on the examples, just as with the with issues, and just add your own issue and say, okay, this is wrong, or this should be improved, or what about this? Is there something wrong with this? I can't get it to work. Feel free to open an issue here. You don't have to open something with TAC if you don't want to, or a ticket with the support. You can just add it here, and let's have an interaction on how we improve the example set. And the same thing goes for the documentation, actually. Documentation is replicated, the Markdown is replicated into its own repository. So basically the source for the documentation that you can see here on this web page here, with the user guides and APIs and everything you see here, that's replicated to that Git hub repository, and you can just click here to get to there. If you want to provide feedback to here, maybe you want to say, hey, this is great, or you want to say that, nah, this is not so good. So either way, you click on this, add your comment, and this will pop up for us. Or if you rather prefer, just go in here, open up an issue here, as if you're used to doing those things. That's okay too, to do that with the example set and documentation. And you can also, with the documentation and example set, nowadays you can point to a specific, for example, with example set, a specific line, if you want to do that. Yes. So as I said, where are we on time? 51. Oh, okay, we're pretty good. I can't see what Rocky said about the time, but we're nearing the end. focus on one thing that we want to remember, like I said. Besides that, you can go into DevNet Learning Labs and get some additional, if you're new to NSO, get something step by step, like I showed. Be able to learn NSO in that kind of way without installing NSO, or just running NSO and examples in NSO. You can do that through the cloud IDE version. That's there. It's basically a Visual Studio, VS Code kind of setup where you have a terminal and readmes pop up there as well for examples. And then you have the sandbox, as I mentioned, with a bit like the segment routing examples that's going in there. But as I said, if you remember one thing from this presentation, remember this URL. That's new. All right.
Hello. Thank you, Conny. 2 minutes late, but that's okay. I'm not going to charge on you. I'm not going to charge them.
But I kept within this
There's one thing
here,
you didn't show that I actually use. That, of course, thanks to you, and this is another place your team is innovating. The use of Git books, etc., help us on the discussion we're going to have tomorrow about softifying knowledge, correct? So taking the knowledge and putting it away can be read and reasoning by machines. So actually, do you have that AI help in
right.
Git? And actually, I use that to answer all your RFP questions. So next time you send me 300 RFP questions on NSO, just to let you know that it's going to go through that AI assistant. But that can be also used in a lot of the recommendations and reasoning that maybe your tag or your developer needs to have. And it works very, very well. So thank you for that. Yeah. You're saving us a lot of time.
The search function is much improved too, so the AI is a bonus. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So again, applause. We don't have way more time because we need to give time to our next speaker.
Yes.
Which Edwin, where is he?